Welcome to Toxic Beauty, a look at the HBO Max docuseries, Not So Pretty. My name is Roxanne Wilson, and for the next few episodes, I'm going to take you through a look at this pretty telling docuseries that goes into the trillion-dollar cosmetics, beauty, and personal care industry and raises awareness about the dangers of everyday makeup, hair, skin, and nail products. My hope is that you'll sit with myself and my friends and have an earnest conversation. And my hope is that through that, you are going to find what works for you, the actions that you might want to take to make sure that your beauty is not so toxic. Let's dive in. I have to say, for most Americans, getting your nails done, your manicures, your pedicures, is that thing we just kind of love to do. It's that luxury and indulgence that a lot of us missed during the lockdown. But now we're back and nails are back in a big way. And so watching episode 2 of Not So Pretty kind of made me feel a certain way about all things. Now, you know, I love to bring in my friends to talk about this very interesting documentary. And as we were diving in, I thought, oh my goodness, I have to introduce you all to my friend and expert in the nail field and the beauty field in general, Amber Parungao. Amber, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for asking me. I'm so excited to finally be on the podcast.
Hey. Well, I'm excited to have you on it. Please tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
So I am a licensed manicurist. That's how I met Roxanne. I was her manicurist. I did nails for 15 years. And then I went back to school and got my full cosmetology license with focus more on makeup and hair. So I kind of pivoted in the industry.
And you've been doing that and you have done all sorts of different things since then as well too.
Yes.
Managing salons, the whole 9 yards.
Yes, I managed salons and spas for a while when I wasn't doing nails. Currently, I run a wedding hair and makeup company called Red Betty Weddings. And that's my passion. I love it. And then I still do nails occasionally. I have to do it very part-time, mostly for like friends and family and myself.
Those flashy nails too. They look nice. So let's dive into this episode, shall we? And I have to tell you, I didn't know where they were going to go with it when we started. But they start and, you know, the first thing I thought of, they talk about how there's no policing. We know that now in beauty, there's just no policing. And no one's forced to disclose, hey, we're using la la la. You like those things on your nails? Well, we happen to use this chemical and that chemical. I was a little surprised. Let me go back one step. I was surprised and actually really interested in the history that they showed of the origin of the nail story and how the Vietnamese culture came to be with nails. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I knew a lot already about like the history and evolution of nail care. A lot of it came from like dental care, and we used a lot of the same products and what's the word? Not routines, but procedures to create acrylic fake nails as we did acrylic fake teeth or like bonded teeth, etc.
Seriously, I did not know that.
But I did not know about is it Hendren?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was, I mean, talk about one thing that you did, like rippling into this, like she created an entire movement and changed like generations of lives.
Totally. I mean, I don't know how long she lived to know that. I don't know if she's still alive. But you're right. And I wonder if her family even realizes, gosh, that's a big deal. And that's something that had really nothing to do with what she's doing every day, acting on like Hitchcock movies and things, but it had to do with her influence. I thought it was pretty impressive too.
Yeah, she got her manicurist to teach these other women how to do nails.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was a really cool origin story, and I'm glad that they showed that. Even though they warned us that miscarriage is cancer, it's coming down the line. I'm like, well, that's fascinating how that all went down. Okay, so then they kind of lean into talking about thyroid issues, asthma, breast cancer, babies' miscarriages increase in 40% increase in for the babies. Was that shocking to you?
Yes and no. I think every salon is different. Every salon environment is different. Unfortunately, we have heard a lot in other documentaries, especially like sex trafficking documentaries about some exploited nail workers.
Mm.
So not every salon is going to be the same environment. And, unfortunately, the salons that do exploit people and exploit their employees are probably not putting safeguards in place either. Um, I have heard a lot more of asthma, respiratory issues, and even like my aunt is a manicurist, and she had a friend, a coworker, who had to get a lung transplant. She was,
Wow.
yeah. So I knew that. I didn't know as much about like the cancer and the fertility issues
Mhm,
that came
mhm.
along with it.
And listen, we don't know if your aunt's friend had it, if it was because of her line of work, but
It
I'm
was.
sure it didn't help. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely that was. And I think, not to change topics, but one of the big things missing from all of this is the dust. And I don't know why they didn't. I mean, the dust is really the main issue over all of it. Breathing in the chemicals, it does a lot to you, but the dust is really, you're ingesting it. You're putting powder into your lungs. That's the main culprit. Um,
I'm not an expert. We all know this. But when you say the dust and you say it that way, it kind of makes me think of asbestos. And I don't know all things about asbestos, but isn't it like if the asbestos is basically irritated, or if it, the dust is what causes all, I think that's how that works.
I mean, anything you're breathing in is
Mhm.
is not good for your lungs other than oxygen, right? So um, you can ingest a material and it's fine. It goes into your, into your esophagus, your stomach, everything's good. Like you ingest it, you're okay. And that's what toxicity is usually, if you can ingest this without dying, but not if you can breathe it into your lungs over and over again without dying.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is swallowing something down into your stomach is totally different than inhaling it into your lungs.
Yeah, even breathing a toxic chemical or breathing a chemical that potentially causes cancer or touching it on your skin is different than filing it into a tiny powder and breathing it in over and over again for 7 to 10 to 12 hours a day. And a lot of these people work 7 days a week,
Yeah.
6 days a week. So, I mean, that's that's it right there.
That's heavy what you just said there, but I'm glad you took us there because it's good to think about. And yeah, you're right. They talked about the chemicals in the air and the levels of that, but what about the dust? And the dust is making it even more potent, essentially.
Yeah, that was like a huge deal. Even if it's dust that's non-toxic, and that's, I think, part of the piece that's missing here is we can talk about chemicals and toxic chemicals versus non-toxic chemicals, and that gets really complicated. Um, and there's so many different layers and steps and safety things to talk about with that. But even with all of that, there's just the actual act of doing the nails or being in that environment.
They said it's almost it makes me feel like you're in basically a mine,
Yeah.
like a mine worker, you know? Um, they said something during the documentary that struck me when they're like, okay, it's in the air and then it's in the food that
Mhm.
and I'm like, and the dust could move easily. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
golly, yeah, their drinks or whatever's there. So they don't even have a break. It's all over.
Who doesn't have the air conditioning on? I mean, we've learned with COVID just how things spread in the air, right?
Mhm.
Aerosols and all that stuff. It's the same thing. I mean, that's why most of them wear a mask, even pre-COVID,
Right.
uh, is to protect themselves from the dust. But you're not wearing it all day long. You take it off to eat, drink, go to the bathroom, smoke outside, whatever.
And
Um,
it's interesting you say that because I live in California, and so our mask laws are lasted longer than most people's. Okay, let me just say it that way. And so I was at the nail salon with my mask. Well, most recently I didn't have my mask on getting my nails done. And I get dip.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, she always puts, like, I soak it, right? And she puts it over my girl Diana. She puts it over my, like, a towel over it.
Yeah.
I had the mask on. So anyhow, mask off, and I thought I was going to pass out.
From
I
the
did not, yeah, from the fumes. I did not know because I didn't start dip till like I don't know, a few months, 6 months ago, maybe. I did not know all this time how strong that chemical was until I
Yeah.
had that mask off, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe.
Yes.
It struck me in a big way. I was like, whoa.
It's as intense as like gas at the gas station. It's, I mean, the bottle is like use in a well ventilated area. Like,
Why do they even write that? It's like, really? Because how many nail salons are well ventilated?
well, exactly. And unfortunately, like I'm privileged enough in my career that I can pick and choose where I'm going to work, right? I chose to do natural nail care mostly. I didn't mess with acrylics. I didn't deal with the dust. I had the privilege and option to go wherever I wanted and get hired. But a lot of these women, especially these immigrants, and especially these Vietnamese immigrants who don't have strong English language skills, their options are so limited. They don't have the option to pick and choose where they work,
Right.
you know.
Did it frustrate you when you watched the documentary? Like, how did you feel?
Um, I felt, I mean, yes. Let's be honest, right? Like you want to make change and you can't make change because you have 50 lobbyists in suits. Just that's why this issue is like the documentary is so just scratching the surface of this bigger problem. And, you know, it, what can you do? Money is, at the root of all this. And these companies, these manufacturing companies, these product manufacturers, they have a lot of money to spend to continue the lack of, regulation.
Policing,
Yeah.
regulation. This episode definitely made me feel helpless, in a sense because, and I feel like the episode really tried to say, hey, the answer is not to stop going to your nails salon.
Right. Yeah. It's to me, when I rewatched it today, I was thinking it's so similar to the fast fashion issue, right? We all know fast fashion exploits workers. We all know it's not a healthy environment for these people. But what are all our alternatives, right? Like we don't have a ton of alternatives. So what can you do? Spend a little more at some places over others, like do a little bit of research, try to figure out where you're going and how they treat their people. And, there are small things we can do. It's not going to fix it overnight, but if we all did a little bit more, then, hopefully change can come.
It's funny you say that because as I was watching it, I had to pause. I had to literally had to pause and go, I need to look at my nail salon because things I don't check, right?
Yeah.
Who checks, hey, I wonder how this works. It's just like, oh, that salon looks cute. I'll try that one. Or you get it from a recommendation from a friend. So I did. I looked up and they said that they use, I mean, they have, I don't remember but they said that they use safe products. I don't even know the exact wording. And I love my place. I'm not saying that. But one of the things that did make me feel better, because I don't know how, like in my opinion, and I've gone as you know, the clean nail that, and it works, but it doesn't work all at the same time, right? People want nails that last a long time, and
Yeah.
it's hard to get that from nails.
Well, and a lot of the documentary, I don't think they really drove home like the difference between being a consumer and having nails on versus being in a nail salon for 7, 10, 12 hours a day.
Right.
You go and sit there for 2 hours every 2 weeks, you're fine. Like even the product itself on your hands, you're not, putting it in your mouth, you're not ingesting it. It's a very different type of exposure than an employee in the salon.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Yeah. And it's good that you ask. I think one of the things you can ask your nail techs is like, how many days do you work? Like if they're working 7 days a week, they're not getting paid enough, which is probably an indication that they're not being kept safe either.
See, I love that. We need to go and dig into that some more. What I did find out when I looked online, and I have to say, again, I didn't ask questions, but what I thought was interesting, the first time I went to the salon, I did not have a person, so they gave me whomever. Second
Yeah.
time I came, the front desk manager was like, "Hey," she suggested I use this person, Diana. Diana's my girl. Anyhow, at the end, Diana was like, okay, she asked for my phone number and was like going to just book me. And I thought, well, that's weird, but okay. So I literally book with her, but I'm at the salon. I tell you this long story because it all makes sense now. What I've now discovered when I looked at the website after the fact, watching this documentary, is that they are all independent contractors at my salon. I didn't even know that. And so they pick when they want to work.
Mhm.
And I'm like, so I felt really good that I just stumbled on that.
Yeah.
But what are some suggestions you would have for those of us who might not know how to even check and see? Like, what can we ask?
The best thing you can do, spend a little more. Spend a little more on your nails. It's if you're getting really cheap nail care, they're cutting corners. So they're either cutting corners, keeping your nail tech safe, but they're probably cutting corners in the products that they use and they're putting on you. So they're not going to use brand names that have put the time and energy and money into like trying to keep their products a little bit safer for the consumers. They're going as cheap as possible, backdoor operations, like shady labels. Yeah, as cheap as you can get it from whoever they can get it from. So yeah.
So those who are going getting those $20 manicures, and I say that like $20 manicures here in California, like how is your manicure $20? Like that's insane to me. That's probably not the best place.
Yeah, I mean, they even said in the documentary, by the time they pay for the rent, the product, workers' comp taxes, the insurance, there's nothing left. So if you're getting a cheap nail service, like a very, very cheap nail service, like you're getting an exploited worker who's not being treated fairly, who's not being protected, and you're getting products that are probably not very safe to have on your hands.
Not safe for them or for you.
Exactly.
And the insult to injury on all that is not only is that exploited worker being exploited, right, on a daily basis, but they're also ingesting things that are going to make it really hard for them health-wise.
Yes.
Add to that, they're not making the money to be able to take care of themselves if they get sick.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just like I said, like clothing. You can buy one shirt for $100 and it can last a little bit longer. Same with nails. Usually when you go to a place that costs a little more, you're getting a little bit of a longer experience.
Yes.
Better quality experience, a technician who can educate you on how to maintain your nails at home so you don't have to come back as often, etc.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I personally have never enjoyed, well, I went to you, so never enjoyed going to a cheap nail salon just because I didn't feel like it just felt, I think sometimes we don't realize that our body and our intuition is telling us something and we don't know what it's telling us.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
And I've never, I've like just had the wrong feeling, like something's off about about a place like that.
So I grew up in California, and when I was little, my mom was a single mom, and so I went everywhere with her. And she was young, and she is not a very girly girl, but she always had her nails done. She loved having her nails done. She loved getting her pedicures, and so I would go with her, and I'd sit there, and they would put pink on me, and we always went to pretty much predominantly Vietnamese owned nail salons, and I loved. And then when I got older, I'd watch them and I'd like try to go home and I'd practice the hand massages on my cousin and my friends. And obviously it started early for me.
I was going to say, and there you were.
But I feel like there was definitely a shift in probably, I'd say like the late 90s, where that family friendly kind of salon feel that they used to have, it felt rushed and like anxious and uncomfortable. And that's same thing, like you're getting these exploited people. They're working too hard, too long. They're not making enough. They're not being protected. They're not feeling good. They have migraines and fertility issues and all those horrible things. And we can feel that when you walk into a place sometimes.
Yeah, it's so sad. And P.S. And by the way, I go to a Vietnamese nail salon. But what I will say to you is, coming to California, I found more and more. I mean, there's nail salons everywhere here, but I was impressed to find as many nail salons as I did that I have that I just feel like are more reputable. But now I realize, watching this documentary, it's because there's a whole movement going on in California.
Yeah, I mean, and like California has a lot more regulations.
Yeah. You don't say.
That's probably a big part of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, what was sad is just hearing how many, when they started doing research, Dr. Quash, and I forgot the other doctor's name, no one would come forward.
That broke my heart. You think, go ahead, please go ahead.
Well, there's two reasons, right? The one is like that the Vietnamese culture, the Asian culture of like, you just put your head down, you work really hard. And that's a culture I've seen just being adjacent to it, my ex-husband, and just that's just how that culture is. And they don't complain. They don't complain. They work really hard and they don't complain. So it's hard to come forward when you feel like you're doing something wrong. You feel like you're going to complain. You're not, you're worried about what this will mean. What if they find out that your cancer is caused by your nail stuff? Well, now what? You still need to work. Are you going to feel safe going to work and telling your clients that? What if they find out? Who's going to feel like they can come to salon? And then I think there's another reason. I think there's a lot still everywhere of unlicensed professionals, people who are just learning the trade, who might not have the money right away to go to school to get the technical license, but they're just in the salon apprenticing, kind of learning on their own, trying to make some money so they can make it official, and they don't want to get caught.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where I'm glad you brought up those examples, because the everyday person does not have a full understanding for what it's like to be an immigrant.
Right.
And while you're not an immigrant, I mean, like you said, you are adjacent, or I mean, your ex-husband, his family were immigrants. I'm the first one born in the U.S. from my family. And it's just a different, I think, for several different reasons. First and foremost, there is if something happens, who are you relying on? And when you've come to this country,
yeah,
and you're the only or the first, if something like, you can't just, I'll just touch my family will help me. That's not a thing.
Right.
That's not a thing. And the other thing is, you are different from everybody else, or from most people. And I think we forget that even in 2022, you are not the norm. You do stand out. And a lot of times you don't want to make yourself stand out any more than you already do, just because you speak differently or you look differently than everybody else.
Yeah, there's definitely a safety and security you get from being born American that you don't have naturally when you immigrate here. For sure. Yeah. And I don't, I'm not Vietnamese. I have a lot of friends in the community that are manicurists as well. I've been lucky enough to meet some great women that I've worked with and alongside. But yeah, I mean, like I've said before, I had a lot more privilege going into this industry than a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm. And your kids are mixed. And so I think that also opens up your eyes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast, right? Like, didn't know that. I still learn every day. We were just talking the other day, and they were talking about like when they were little, certain times they've gotten made fun of, or, Asian slurs, or kids slamming their eyes, or just things that I'm like, what? Like, I just didn't even know that happened. But that definitely has been eye-opening for sure. And just like I said, just working, having coworkers, it's been Really
You're in the
great.
industry. And I think, so I thank you for mentioning that because I think people don't, if you are not exposed to it, if you don't, are you not truly exposed to the minority or the immigrant experience, I should say, really, how would you know? And so it is understandable that there's not a lot of voices coming out saying, yes, this is a dangerous place, or yes, this is not okay, but it isn't okay. And I think that's one of the hardest things I think throughout this entire um, docu-series is that you see that the people who are being impacted the most are the people who don't have the voice or the means to stand up for themselves as much as
Yeah.
others.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Some of these nail companies and beauty product companies, like who can fight them and win? I mean, even look at, Johnson and Johnson or other companies that have come to light with some shady stuff that has been happening. Like, it takes a lot for change to happen. But I do feel like this documentary came out at a good time. Like, we
Why
are
is that?
more and more aware of that. And, the more we talk about it, the better it's going to get. I mean, that's the only way we can move the mountain is by just creating a lot of tiny voices.
There's so much hope in what you say, and I appreciate that because I do think that while it's great that this docuseries came out, it can make people feel a little bit helpless in a moment. And the goal of us talking about it today is to get not only to continue that awareness, but also help people decide what's next for them.
Yes, and what's safe. And I think that's part of something that was a little bit missing. And I was lucky enough. Recently, I was teaching at the beauty college. I was teaching nails for a little bit, and I substitute part time. I love it.
Welcome.
But, we're being taught in beauty school. We teach these people very well on like how to safely provide a service with chemicals that can be harmful and toxic depending on how they're used. So, teaching students how to use product properly. There's so much emphasis on like not getting the product on the skin. That is a huge one because your skin absorbs a lot faster and a lot differently than your nails do. It's different. So your manicurists, most of them, they've learned a lot and they have continuing education in most states where they continue to learn safe protocols, safety practices, how to use the products appropriately in the most non-toxic way. So I think that needs to be driven home is that it is safe to go to most nail salons. Most nail salons are safe. There's things you can do to pay attention, but if you're going to a good technician anywhere, they're doing what they need to do. You're not going to get cancer from getting a gel manicure, I promise. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's good for us all to remember that because the answer is if you're going to nail salon now, the answer is not to stop going to nail salon. In fact, right after this, believe it or not, at 1 p.m., I'm going to the nail salon. I'm not stopping. Once I did my due diligence and made sure that I was not like, there wasn't some secret sweatshop going on that I didn't know about. And I mean, also, I think by the happiness factor of the people that are working there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's a big party when I go. Like I know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's anywhere, right? You go into a certain fast food place and they're like, oh, they just look miserable to be there because they are.
There's a reason for it. Right.
Yeah. Spend
Exactly.
your time as a consumer in places that the people are happy to be there. So it makes a difference for sure.
So the products, I mean, and listen, they showed how like people love artistic nails, all the things. Yes, we're putting some major products on our nails to make that happen. What I hear you saying is you can keep doing that. You're not in danger by doing that.
No, you're like I said, even if you're getting acrylics, even if you're going in and they're getting drilled, you're there for what, 2 hours every 2 weeks?
Mhm.
You're fine. That's not as much of a concern.
Yeah.
Now, for little girls, if you're putting formaldehyde, toluene, DBP, all these chemicals on their nails and they're nail biters and they're eating and eating and eating it, yeah, like maybe let's not do that, right? Just take efforts to learn how to be a safe consumer. So don't bite your nails. Try to use an LED light instead of a UV light just to limit your exposure to UV things. Make sure you're going somewhere where there's labels. Like, 1 second, let me show you an example. You want to go somewhere where there's a label on your product, right? It has a company's name, it has an ingredient list, that kind of thing. You don't want to go somewhere where there's nothing and it's empty on all sides. It's like things have been poured into the wrong bottle. And there's, ask questions, ask what scrub that is. Oh, what product is that from? Look at the ingredient list if you have to. And I think, just educating yourself on being a safe consumer, but absolutely safe to go to nail salons.
Be more aware is what I'm hearing you say. The do's and don'ts they listed, which I think yours are, we almost don't need theirs. Yours are so great, but was to pay more for less toxic products, which is what you've been talking about this whole time. If you're spending more at a nail salon and you're not going for the cheap $10, $20 nails, guess what? Then you can pretty much believe that your products are better and the environment for your nail techs are better.
Yeah, typically, for sure. Look for places with lots of ventilation. Spend a little more, tip well.
Tip well, everybody. Tip well.
Yes.
What is well? Since we're here, what is well? What percentages debate? Has that changed?
I always say like industry standard is 18 to 25%. But it's never an expectation, only, never an expectation, but a nice extra. I typically tip 20 to 25%, depending. And if it's like a very cheap service, it can be as much as 50%. Cheap service, like they fixed my nail, right? Like I had one little problem, they fixed it, and it was like $4 or $5. Well, I'll give them another $5. Like even though it's 100% tip, tipping 50 cents is just unreasonable.
Let me get my change out.
So bad. A lot of people tip in cash, just
to make sure that extra assurance that it's getting
and that it goes to them directly.
Or people do Venmo now these days too.
Yeah, but most products, like most of the name brands, OPI, Spa Ritual, China Glaze.
How do we feel about them?
Most of them are as free as they can be, but like the documentary said, they did testing and found chemicals that weren't listed. So here's the thing, unless we change legislation and have more regulations for our beauty products, we're going to be in this position. And as Americans, especially, we don't have that regulation here that they have in the EU. And that's across all the things, right? You can't trust a company to take care of what they're supposed to take care of. And
there's a lot of back and forth about that. What you just said there, like the EU has more regulations. Some people say, but they put things like ridiculous things you would never put in a product. So it's like they have a long list, but it's a list of ridiculous things.
But it's so hard because, like, for example, a layman would say like, oh, I want this to be free of chemicals. Well, everything is a chemical, right? Or I want my nail polish to be organic. Well, are you eating it? What does that mean? It just means that it was created without pesticides. Your acetone was created without pesticides. Like what does organic mean? Like it's very confusing unless you're a scientist or you're licensed manicurist that knows ingredients and what they are. It's just tricky. Parabens are in blueberries. They're also in lotions. You want paraben free. What does that really mean? Like it gets tricky. But I do think the EU does have a higher standard. I know they do.
Definitely.
And even Canada, and that's for a reason. It does make a difference, I believe. And maybe they're putting different things in there because you have to have stuff. Nail products have to have some sort of chemical, quote unquote, to make it work. You can't dye your hair with blueberries. You can't smash up grass and make it your nail polish. And even then you'd have pesticides.
Parabens in it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, if you did,
exactly. Yeah, having some stronger regulations, just because right now we don't have any. It's up to the manufacturers themselves to list what they have in their stuff and what to put in it. That's bananas to me. That you can, yeah, I mean, your food, we have to kind of know what's in that, and that's regulated. The FDA has no regulation on nail products at all. They could be putting asbestos in there in heavy doses, or extremely cancer-causing toxic chemicals, or, who knows what. We are kind of, especially when it's a big company that has enough money just to pay off the lawsuits.
Not that we're saying there's asbestos in nail polish, but
I don't think the level of ingredients in these nail products is going to be damaging to a consumer, a normal consumer of nail products. I really don't. I just don't see how that would be. Now, the workers, that's different because the exposure is different, like we said before.
Yeah. When you've watched most of the documentary or the series now, what is your biggest takeaway for how you're going to go forward? I mean, you're in the nail industry or you're in the beauty industry, but what are you going to do, if anything, going forward?
I think just protecting your own body is a big one. That's something I did not learn early in my career until it was a little too late. I developed contact dermatitis, overexposure allergy from just not wearing gloves.
I remember that.
Yes, which is why I had to cut my nail career a little short, but I still am a consumer of nails. I still enjoy doing it part-time. I just learned ways to be safer that I did not pay attention to when I was 20 years old or 22 years old. But yeah, I mean, going forward, I've always been very conscious of the ingredients and products that I use on my clients. That's just something that I care about, knowing where it comes from, which company bought out what company, because they all get bought out by the big guys. Just, being as conscious as possible about what I'm putting on my client's skin and nails and hair and all the things. So.
For the person who's listening who does not go to the nail salon. So the person who goes to the nail salon, pick a good one, do your diligence and keep going. But for the person who doesn't go to a salon at all, what would you say to them?
I would say most of your products that you're going to get at a store are safe enough for consumer use. Follow the directions on the package. Try not to get it all over your skin. Don't bite your nails and eat it. Use it in a well-ventilated area. Have a fan on, open the window, sit close to the window when you're using it. Just like if you were painting a house or painting a car, right? You're not going to paint a car in a garage that's shut with a mask on. Same with your nail stuff. Yeah, just open a window, turn on a fan, sit close to a well-ventilated area. Keep your products the way they're supposed to be, shut properly in a dark space. Don't leave them all open and everywhere where anyone can get them. And that's kind of it. Yeah. To keep it away from your skin
or go to a nail salon.
Yeah. Or go to a nail salon. Nail salons are wonderful. I'm a big fan. I love going. It's a wonderful experience.
It is. And I do hope, and like I said, we know that the documentary really was trying to say, look, we're shedding light on this, not for people to boycott the nail salon. That is not the answer.
No, it felt very much like, hey, these people that don't have a strong voice for themselves, they deserve to be protected. Mm-hmm. And I heard something where I saw a quote, and I wish I could find it. I don't even think it was a quote. It was someone on Facebook on a comment said something about trade school or a trade, and it just hit me. It was, when you do a trade, you're trading your body. You're putting your body through it, whether it's an auto mechanic or a window washer or an electrician, a plumber, manicurist. Our bodies are not necessarily designed to last forever in this line of work. And it does put wear and tear on our bodies. That's what we went to school for. And you can do things to try to mitigate that, but unfortunately it's kind of the deal we made, I guess. So the documentary is trying to shine a light on that and say these workers deserve better, and they do. I mean, look how we got OSHA and food regulations. It's all because, these unions formed and these people spoke up and change was made.
So true, which leads us to the Safer Beauty bill package. I've not read it, so let me just disclaim that. I always think with bills, you kind of want to make sure you know all the things they say about it before you lobby for it or sign for it. But I do think pressuring the government, as they mentioned, and about the Safer Beauty bill package is something we could all at least look into.
Absolutely. Vote. That is the best thing you can do. Spend your money well, vote with your money and vote in the polls. Go there, vote on these things, write letters, be passionate, talk to your manicurists, find out about their lives, where they came from, how they got to be where they are. Tell them you care about their safety, make sure that they're comfortable, and vote. Let's get some change made. Not just on the state level, but the national level.
National level, right, exactly. I have to tell you that I got a little weepy seeing Dr. Lupita talk about how the next generation and when she met the person who used her research to go further, that's just a cool moment,
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's great. That's the best thing we can do. From Tippy teaching these women how to do nails, from these doctors and these researchers teaching the next generation of doctors and researchers, and continuing the conversation and making a podcast about this, because it's important that we educate our communities. That's all we can do.
Like that. It gives us some hope and some things we can do that might seem minor, but can make a difference.
Yeah, it's all about simple things that can make the most impact.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. That leaves us with, okay, we can do this. Like I said, I'm going to the nail salon right after this. True story, to get my mani and pedi.
Big.
I'm going to tip big. I always do. And it happens to be Mother's Day when we're recording this. So I'm also going to give them a little something because they're working on Mother's Day. I mean, it's her choice, but still she is. So
sweet.
Yeah.
You're such a good client. Always have been.
Oh, well, I am blessed to meet great people. And thank you so much, Amber. I'm honored that you did my nails, but more importantly, that I got a friendship out of it, and have so much good things, so many good things, to offer. And I'm excited to know that you're also teaching at the nail salon as well, or the nail school as well, too, to just help others get the education, the confidence they need. So when they do go out there and work somewhere, they can stand up for themselves as well, too.
Thank you again as well.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Thanks again for joining us for the RoxTalks Limited series, Toxic Beauty, a look at the HBO Max docuseries, Not So Pretty. Now you're probably wanting to know more, probably wondering now what to do. And that's why we've put together a special website for you. It's called Toxic Beauty Podcast. There you're going to find some information that will help you get into next steps, including a free guide to your low tox life, a beginner's guide to get you into just knowing more about what products you might want to look at, you might want to change, and how you want to live your life. In addition, we have some Instagram links for you that's going to give you a great guide to perhaps some people you might want to listen to and follow, and just to get more information. And we'll also, on the website, feature information about each one of our guests from all of the episodes. Now, I by no means have any desire to tell you how to live your life. I'm still just trying to figure out how to live mine. But I know that at the Toxic Beauty Podcast page, you're going to find information that runs the gamut that will help you to make those decisions for you and your family. I'd love for you to share this series with others, and please don't hesitate to tag us at RoxTalks if you would like to continue the discussion on Instagram. And don't forget to pick up that free guide. Thanks so much. Take care, and we'll see you soon.